Today's film club presentation is John Carpenter's 1982 classic horror film, The Thing. It's difficult to imagine nowadays, but back in the 1980s you had to have rather more on your CV than just a few Adidas commercials or a few pop videos to your name before a studio would let you direct a summer blockbuster. By the time Carpenter was given his shot at studio glory, he'd already written and directed the most commercially profitable film of all time, Halloween, a record that wasn't beaten incidentally until 1999 by the Blair Witch Project. He'd also made the spooky hit The Fog and Escape from New York. The project in question was Universal Studios' remake of The Thing from Another World. Yeah, that's right, a horror remake. But for his version, Carpenter wasn't going for a shot-for-shot recreation, he was going to take things up several notches.
I first became aware of a movie called The Thing when I saw the original film. It was 1952, and I would have been about 4 or 5 years old. I think I saw it in a re-release. It was one of those films where, as you watched it, it was so frightening that my popcorn flew out of my hands. In other words, when they went up to the doorway, and they had this a Geiger counter, they opened the door and he's right there, I went nuts. I went crazy. And then I subsequently read the short story in high school, and I realized it was a lot different than the movie. What they'd done in the first film was kind of make the James Arness monster more like a Frankenstein creature. And yes, he could, he was a kind of a vegetable that could reproduce various life forms, but he wasn't the imitator, the creature that could imitate any life form from the original story. The John W. Campbell story, Who Goes There, was basically an Agatha Christie kind of 10 Little Indians. You know, this creature is in your midst, and he's imitating either one or all of us, who's human and who isn't. And that kind of an idea really fascinated me. So we went, in that sense, back to that idea.
A monster that can turn into anything it wants sounds like a fairly simple request for today's special effects artists. But back in 1982, when Frogger and Pac-Man were considered to have pretty awesome graphics, it was a slightly taller order.
One of the crucial decisions we had to make was on the special effects and whether or not to hire what kind of an effects person to go with and what kind of a concept to go with. And I chose Rob Bottin. He came in with a wild concept, which is that the thing can look like anything. It doesn't look like one monster, it looks like anything. And out of this changing shape, this imitation, comes all the creatures throughout the universe that the thing has ever imitated, and it uses these various forms. And Rob was very daring in his approach. I must say, even sometimes I was doubtful as to whether he'd pull it off.
Whilst the effects aren't likely to dazzle today's jaded audience, I would hope that they would still have a modicum of respect for what was achieved. Every effect had to be planned out and executed meticulously in camera and on set.
What I didn't want to end up with in this movie was a guy in a suit. See, I grew up as a kid watching science fiction and monster movies, and it was always a guy in a suit. Or sometimes it was a kind of bad puppet, like It Conquered the World comes to mind right now, Roger Corman's movie, this kind of vegetable monster kind of going like this woodenly. And my fear was, they'll laugh at us, you know. There'll be a joke. I mean, even as great as the movie was, and Alien was a terrific movie, it's still, in the very end, up stood this big guy in a suit. Oh, I don't want to do a suit. You know, I want something that's alive. So when I saw that stuff coming out, I was like, oh, man. Now, there were some effects we had to fool with. They didn't work perfectly. Because this stuff is not like As Rob said to me, it's not like ordering pizza on the phone. You have to build it and create it. And sometimes it doesn't work. In our case, I think it did.
Ultimately, when The Thing was released, it was a huge commercial failure. Part of the problem was marketing such a nihilistic film to an audience who was still high from sci-fi hits like Star Wars and Alien. But another obstacle was the other Alien Comes to Earth movie that was in cinemas at the same time, E.T. It seems that audiences were happy to see a film about friendly aliens, but wouldn't entertain the notion of unfriendly ones. Evidently, these were the same people who in the same 12 months had shunned such classics as Blade Runner, The Dark Crystal and Tron. Luckily, due to the advent of home video, The Thing did eventually find its audience.
There's a very somber kind of inevitability to the film. As it begins, you're seeing a helicopter flying, and they're chasing a dog, and already it feels like the end of the world to me. And that's what this is. This is an apocalyptic movie. This is the first of 3 films that I've worked on that have an apocalyptic theme, and I've dealt with them in different ways. This is the end of the world. It doesn't come from bombs dropping. It comes from within. And it was a movie that's tone started and finished. And basically it was almost there's nothing you can do, because here it comes. And of course the Thing is a metaphor for whatever you want to say. It's disease, could be AIDS, could be whatever, but it comes from within you. It's also basically the lack of trust that's in the world now. We see it all over, countries, people. We don't trust each other anymore. We don't know who to trust. We're with somebody that we think maybe they're our loved ones and they may attack us. And that's what The Thing is. It has a lot of truth in it, kind of dressed up as a monster movie.
But what of the imminent Hollywood remake, I hear you ask? Well, this one comes with a twist. The remake, out in December, is actually going to be a prequel to the John Carpenter film. So if you don't want to know the end of that film, look away now. For 90 minutes.
This is U.S. Station 31. You read me? Found something in the ice. We need some help down here. Can anybody hear me? We found something. We found something. We found something.